Welcome to Gertie's Sewing Show. This is our very first episode. This is where we specialize in nonstop excitement for the sewing nerd. So today what we're going to talk about is the slip sew along. This is my Butterick pattern for a lingerie set. This is Butterick 6031, and on my blog I've been going through a series of sew along steps to how to make the slip yourself. So we've gotten to the step where we're talking about making the lingerie straps. And I was taking pictures and I realized it's a little bit complicated. There's some weird action with the lace going in and out of the slider, and I thought, hey, this would be the perfect thing to show on our first episode. So I've gotten myself all prepped here. What I want to show you first is what the straps actually look like on the sample garments. This is the camisole version, which is also included in the pattern. So what you see is it has lace on the strap here. It's connected to the upper edge of the lace on the top of the bra cup. On the back, this is where it has the hardware, the ring and the slider. Okay, the slider is that little thing that's like a three-pronged metal piece. And then the ring at the top, which is a ring. It's just a little circle. Okay, now this one you'll notice has lace in the front and elastic in the back. To simplify things, we're just going to use lace for the whole thing. And if you bought one of my lingerie kits in my Etsy shop, it just has this narrow lace for the straps. So you're looking at this piece of stretch lace. It's about 1/2 inch or 5/8 of an inch wide. Either one is fine. So I've gone ahead and cut my pieces of lace the length that they need to be. And the pattern directions tell you what that is, but in case you don't have them in front of you, what you need is to cut your length of narrow stretch lace to 2 pieces that are 5.5 inches long and 2 pieces that are 8.5 inches long. Okay, so the first 2 were 5.5 inches, second 2 are 8.5. Now you're going to grab your slip, which is sewn up to this point. You have the lace at the top, we have our back sewn on. We're all ready to apply these straps. So we're going to start with the front. You need your shorter piece of elastic. Grab one of these 5.5 inch pieces and just pin it where you want it behind the that sort of mitered bit on the lace of the bra. And you'll notice that the pattern instructions tell you that you should have a mark there. The thing is, at this point, you've probably either your mark is worn off or it didn't transfer from your fabric to your lace. And it's really easy to figure out the placements. It really just needs to be at the top of that peak. So I say you can just go ahead and eyeball it. But what you do want to think about is which side of the lace do you want to go on the outside of the strap and which side is going to be on the inside, because you want it to look symmetrical on both sides. So you can see on this side, I have the side that's a bit more scallopy on the outside. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to make sure that it's positioned that same way. And I'm just going to pin it behind there. Like so. All right, so now I have 2 little narrow pieces of lace pinned to the slip. And now we're going to sew this on by machine. And I'm just going to do a little zigzag stitch at the top of this wider lace right here. Now, of course, you're going to be using coordinating thread. I'm using red thread so that you can see it on my white lace. But as we talked about, you'll want either a white or a light gray. Works great as a neutral on white lace. So let's sew the first strap. I'm going to position it under the needle. This Elna has a knee lift, which is really nice for situations like this where I can use both my hands to position and be hands-free and lower the presser foot with the knee lift. Now it's a good idea to lower your needle so that you're all set to go. Take out your pin, of course, because you don't want to sew over that and break your needle. My zigzag is 2.5 millimeters long and 2.5 millimeters wide, so it's a square zigzag. I'm going to start stitching right over that strap. Now you'll see that my machine has a little back stitch feature, so it went ahead and back stitched for me. If yours doesn't, you'll want to do that manually. And here I'm just going to knot it again at the end, knot my thread, and go ahead and use my thread cutter and my knee lift, and there we go. And you'll see how that blends right in with the zigzag stitching that I did before. So we've sewn one strap. Obviously you're going to go back and do the other one like you did the first. And now we're ready to sew on the rings to these front straps. So you're going to grab one of your rings. That's just a little circular metal piece. And with your slip facing up towards you, you're going to take the strap and put it through the ring like this so from front to back. And you're going to take that little tab that's formed in the back and we're just going to pin it in place here. Okay, and I'm going to hand sew this part right here. You can sew it by machine, but it gets tricky because obviously you're putting this metal ring underneath the presser foot and it's very hard to get a nice close stitch to that. So I'm just going to go ahead and sew it by hand, which is what the pattern instructions suggest anyway. Okay, so I'm going to take out my pin so I can just hold it with my thumb here. And I'm just going to do a little whip stitch with a single strand of thread. And remember, you want to, this is not a place to skimp on your hand stitching or rush this because this is going to be holding your underwear together. So remember, unless you want it to come flying apart at an inopportune moment, really do this securely. Okay. So I'm going back and forth a few times, just doing a bunch of little whip stitches. And again, this is going to be in a color coordinated thread, so yours will not stand out like mine. But you test your strength there. You want to make sure it's not going to come flying apart. And then once you're happy, I'm just going to take a couple stitches on top of each other to knot this. And then you can cut real close to your stitching there. Okay. So now what we've got, if you look from the front of the slip, is that short piece of lace sewn on, and we've got the ring attached at the top. Now we're going to move on to the back. And like I said, I'm going to eyeball it, but I'm going to make sure that I place the two straps so that they're the exact same different distance from the side seams on both sides, so you don't look crooked with your straps. Okay, so I'm just pinning the lace in place. Again, I'm making sure that the more scalloped edge is on the outside so it matches the front. And I'm just pinning it in place here. And again, just like we did in the front, I'm just going to go ahead and zigzag this in place on the machine. And just like you did on the front, you can center your zigzagging over your zigzagging that's already on the slip from the picot sewing and just kind of let it blend in. I'm going to do my little knot feature, or you can back stitch. Cut my threads. And there we go. So you would go ahead and do the same thing on the other side of the back. Again, make sure that it's the exact same distance from the side seam so that you don't look crooked. We have the two straps, the front and the back, sewn on, so now we just need to connect them. And that's where the slider comes in. Remember, the slider is that other piece that kind of has three little prongs on top of each other. Start by positioning the back of the slip so that it's right side up. Trim any little threads here. And we're going to put the lace of the back strap through the slider. So you're going to go in from the back and then in from the front, if that makes any sense. So what we're doing is we're hiding that middle prong. Okay, so when this is on correctly, you should see the two outer prongs, but the middle one should be hidden when you're looking at it from the right side. Now that the slider is positioned, we can take this and put it through the ring in the front. Now it's going to go into the ring from the front side. Okay, so you're going to kind of swoop around, put the lace through the ring. We're going to pull it through to the back. And so now we have it connected, and we're going to finish this off by putting the end of the lace, the end that's still not secure, is going to go. This is where it gets a little bit tricky. It's kind of hard to comprehend. It's going to go through the back side of the slider, but it has to kind of swoop over and then come back through the slider like that. And it's tricky to do because it's such a small little area. So you're going to take the end of the lace and just kind of smush it into the slider there. I like to use a pin to help guide it through. Okay, so I fed that little piece of stretch lace back through that middle prong on the slider. So what I have here is like a little loop that connects all of these pieces together. And I've pinned it in place here. So what you can see is there are two layers in this loop, and then in the middle is that sort of unsecure end of the stretch lace. And that's what we need to sew by hand right now. Very important to note that you're not going to sew through all these layers. You need to just sew through the layers, the topmost layers as you're working on this. Okay, so we have the end that we're going to be stitching to the top layer of lace. So I'm just going to grab my needle and thread, and again, just do some little whip stitches. Again, you would want this to be matching, of course, but so you can see it, I'm going to do this nice hot pink thread, which matches my nail polish. And just do a bunch of little, tiny little whip stitches next to each other through those 2 layers of the stretch lace. And if you get caught, just pull that. There we go. And this is going to be actually on the inside of the strap, so don't worry about going too heavy on your stitching here. It's actually better to be more secure again than less, because you don't want a strap to break while you're wearing this. So just go over it a few times. Just keep those stitches really nice and close together. And then when you feel good about it, like it's not going to come flying apart, then you can just take a couple little stitches on top of each other to knot it off, and then cut your thread. And then we are done sewing the straps. So what you're going to see, what we have here is a fully functioning strap. And what the slider does is it allows you to adjust the back of the strap to make the strap either tighter or looser on your shoulder. So we have one complete lingerie strap on this side. You're going to go ahead and repeat all of those steps on the other side. And that's it for this step of the sew along. So thank you so much for watching. This has been our very first episode of Gertie's Sewing Show.